राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी गोपी जना वल्लभा गिरिवरधारी गोपी जना वल्लभा गिरिवरधारी यशोदानंदन व्रज जनरंजन यशोदानंदन व्रज जनरंजन यमुना तीरा वनचारी यमुना तीरा वनचारी जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी गोपी जन वल्लभा गिरिवरधारी गोपी जन वल्लभा गिरिवरधारी यशोदानंदन व्रज जनरंजन 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 यमुना तीरा वनचारी यमुना तीरा वनचारी हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So this morning we're reading from Canto number 10 of the Srimad Bhagavatam. We're reading from chapter number 24, entitled Worshipping Govardhan Hill. And today we're reading from text number 36. Thank you. Tasmai namo vrajajane. Tasmai namo vrajajane. Sahachakra atmanatmane. Sahachakra atmanatmane. Aho pasyata shailosho. Aho pasyata shailosho. Rupino nugraham vyadhat. Rupino nugraham vyadhat. Tasmai namo vrajajane. Sahachakratmanatmane. Aho pasyata shailosho. Rupino nugraham vyadhat. Tasmai namo vrajajane. Sahachakratmanatmane. Aho pasyata shailosho. Rupino nugraham vyadhat. Tasmai namo vrajajane. Mothers, Mataji's. Tasmai namo vrajajane. Tasmai, to him. Namaha, obeisances. Vrajajane, with the people of Vraj. Saha, together. Chakre, he made. Atmana, by himself. Atmane, to himself. Aho, Pashyata, just see. Shaila, hill. Also, this. Rupi, manifest in person. Naha, upon us. Anugraham, mercy. Vyadhat, has bestowed. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhakti-Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki. Translation. Together with the people of Vraj, the Lord bowed down to his form, to this form of Govardhan Hill, thus in effect offering obeisances to himself. Then he said, just see how this hill has appeared in person and bestowed mercy upon us. Purport. It is clear from this verse that Lord Krishna had expanded himself and was appearing in his normal form among the festival goers of Vrindavan, while simultaneously manifesting himself as the great form of Govardhan Hill. Thus, in his form as a child, Krishna led the residents of Vrindavan in bowing down to his new incarnation as Govardhan Hill. And to all he pointed out the great mercy bestowed by this divine form of Govardhan. Lord Krishna's amazing transcendental activities were certainly in keeping with the festive atmosphere. Srila Prabhupada ki. Om Ajnanatimmirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalan Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvetam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. In his invocatory verses before he begins commenting on the Bhagavatam, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur in his infinite humility cites one verse. Mama Ratna Vanig Bhavam Ratnanya Parichinvita Hasantu Shanto Jiremi Nasasvanto Vinodakrit. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he says, I'm about to embark on trying to explain and elucidate on the teachings of the Bhagavat, but I have to admit, Mama Ratna Vanig Bhavam, I am like someone who has opened a shop of jewels. Ratnanya Parichinvita, but I know nothing about jewels. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur in his infinite humility, he says, I am so audacious that here I am about to embark on this task. I am like someone who's opened a jewelry shop who knows nothing about jewels. And in the same way, I'm trying to explain the Bhagavatam. But what is driving me forward? Hashantu Shanto Jire Mi. There are many saintly devotees out there, and maybe they will smile, maybe they will laugh, maybe they will be entertained by my attempt. And therefore, Nasa Svanto Vinodakrit, therefore I'm proceeding to try to explain Bhagavatam. So this is Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's humility, and this is our reality. So it's very uncomfortable for me to be sitting here, because as I look out, so many Vaishnavas who are more senior, more realized, who have performed unlimitedly more sacrifices for the movement before me. But maybe you will be entertained by my small attempt to share some words here. So with your permission and your blessings, we'll try to speak on this beautiful verse of the Bhagavatam. Krishna says in Bhagavad-Gita, Yad yad acharati shreshtas tattareva taro jana. As great people do, common people follow. And so Krishna says, even I set the example. So Krishna, as he tells all of the residents of Vrindavan that we must worship Govardhan Hill, then Krishna is the one who's leading from the front and explaining what is required to worship Govardhan Hill. And one of the very first things Krishna does, Tasmai Namo Vraja Jane. Krishna bows down. Krishna offers obeisances. Krishna sets the example that bowing down and offering obeisances is such an important part of spiritual culture. Probably when you come to the Hare Krishna movement, it's one of the first things you learn, that you have to bow down. In fact, you think, my God, how many times do we have to bow down in a day? Isn't it? And then till the final days, we're bowing down. Bowing down is so much a part of our culture. If we look at the culmination of the verses of our philosophy, then the culmination of the Bhagavad-Gita is contained in one verse. And what does Krishna say? Manmana bhavamad bhakto madhyaji mam namaskuru. Krishna says, become my devotee, engage your mind always in me, worship me, and bow down to me. The culmination of our philosophy of the Bhagavad-Gita, Krishna is stressing, bow down. When Chaitanya Mahaprabhu speaks with Ramananda Rai and he's trying to elicit the answers as to what is the ultimate goal of life, then Ramananda Rai is offering different answers, and Krishna's Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, Eho bhaya, aage kaho aar, say something more, say something more. And finally, Ramananda Rai reaches one verse and Mahaprabhu is satisfied. And what does Ramananda say? Jnane prayasamudapasya namanta eva jivanti sanmukharitam bhavadiya vartam. What is the goal of life? Just throw away all speculative knowledge. Jnane prayasam udapasya. And then what should you do? Namanta eva, bow down. Jivanti, engage your life. San mukharitam bhavadiya vartam, in hearing the talks of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Again, bow down, offer obeisances. So this is such an important part of our Vaishnav culture. Krishna is doing it himself, offering obeisances. Krishna is saying it himself, offer obeisances. And therefore, in our tradition, this becomes very much a part. We hear about the Goswamis who are around Govardhan. Shri Govardhana Kalpapada Patale. They were wandering around Govardhan. They were doing their sadhana. And what was their sadhana? Sankhya Purvaka Nama Gana Natibi Kala Vasani Krito. Sankhya, they were measuring everything. And they weren't just measuring their rounds. They weren't just measuring the repetitions of the holy names, Natibi, but they were also measuring how many obeisances they were offering every single day. So therefore you find Sanatana Goswami, 1008 obeisances to Govardhan, Giriraj, every single day, along with Parikrama. Raghunath Das Goswami, you find 1000 obeisances to Krishna every single day, and 2000 obeisances to the Vaishnavas. Interesting. 1000 to Krishna, 2000 for the Vaishnavas. Interesting. So like this, through the ages, and then the culture comes down to always bow down, to always offer obeisances. And we all know if we go to Govardhan today, then there are people who do Dandavat Parikrama. If you do Dandavat Parikrama, we worked it out one time, is 10,000 obeisances. 30,000 steps, 10,000 obeisances. If you're as tall as me, maybe 8,000. And some people make the vow of 108 obeisances on one spot. So then you can do the maths. 1 million, over 1 million obeisances. Maybe that could take 7 years, 8 years, 9 years. So this culture is there to bow down, to offer obeisances. And it's not just a physical act, it's not just a ritualistic act, but it's an act which is bringing about a very deep mood. You see, in colloquial English, they often say you have to stay grounded. Or if someone becomes very unreal or proud, they say your head is in the clouds. So our tendency is always to rise up, to try to go up. One English writer, he says, when you spend your life looking down on others, then you will not be able to ever look up and see the grace of God. Because our tendency is always to go high, be proud, and then look down on others. Therefore, the idea of obeisances, the idea of bowing down is to go down, to go so low, to become so grounded that there's nothing below you, that all you can do is look up and look at the magic of Krishna and the Vaishnavas and appreciate that. So to keep going down, to keep paying obeisances, this is not just an act, but really what it's talking about is to actually become humble, to actually really develop deep sense of humility. Tranadapi sunichena, lower than the grass, lower than a blade of grass. So when we bow down, this is actually the reason why it's so important, because bowing down is synonymous to becoming humble, to developing dainya. Because without dainya, there is no prema. Without humility, there is no love. And so, when I was reading this verse of Krishna paying obeisances, through my mind, so many stories of obeisances were coming in my mind. And I concluded that there's 3 types of bowing down. There's 3 types of obeisances. The first type of obeisances is forced obeisances. The second type of obeisances is induced obeisances. And the third type of obeisances are obeisances which are offered out of culture. And I'll explain what I mean. The first type of obeisances, the first way in which people will bow down in this world is not because they want to, but because they're forced to. In London, we have our very dear devotee, Rupa Vilas Prabhu, a disciple of Srila Prabhupada. And he once said in his class that, my dad told me 2 things. Number 1, never bow down to anyone. And number 2, nobody knows whether God exists or not. He said, my dad always told me these 2 things. And then I sat in front of Srila Prabhupada in a lecture, and Prabhupada said, Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and you have to bow down to him. Hare Krishna. There goes that piece of advice out of the window. Never bow down to anyone. Giriraj Maharaj also writes this in the introduction of his book, that one person came to Srila Prabhupada and he said, Swamiji, I respect you, but I don't think anyone is greater than me. I don't think anyone is less than me. Therefore, I don't bow down to anyone. And what was Prabhupada's answer? Either you bow down now. Either you bow down now to the sadhu. Either you bow down now to Krishna. Either you bow down to the lotus feet of Lord Nityananda, whose feet are like the cooling moon rays. Or you will be forced to bow down to death. Mrityu sarva haraschaham. Death will come, and death will take everything from you, and then you'll be forced to bow down. You're telling me you don't want to bow down, but you have to bow down to disease. You have to bow down to old age, and ultimately you'll have to bow down to death. So either you become humble and you bow down now, Prabhupada told him, or ultimately you will be forced to bow down. One type of obeisances is forced by the wheels of time. Forced obeisances. One type of humility is forced humility. When we become humiliated, when we become broken down by the world, then we become humble, and then we have to become open to Krishna. We sometimes think of Dhritarashtra, who was hearing so much good advice from so many personalities, but somehow it was not penetrating. When Krishna came to give Dhritarashtra good advice, Dhritarashtra said, Krishna, your words are like lightning. In the moment when you speak, they create an incredible illumination. But the very next moment, I'm engulfed by darkness. So Dhritarashtra could not hear. But then what happened at the end? After Vidura, who was on his pilgrimage, decided, let me come back one more time and try to explain to Dhritarashtra what he should really do. Then at that time, Dhritarashtra had a change of heart. Because maybe at that time, Dhritarashtra had become humbled. Everything was lost. All his sons were died. His honor was finished. Everything taken away by the waves of time. And therefore, that humility came. And therefore, when Vidura told him, your hair's falling out, your eyes are failing, your back is going, you've lost everything, now leave. Dhritarashtra said, yes, okay, I'll leave. So one way to become humble is by the crushing workings of material nature. Burijan Prabhu, he stays at Govardhan. And one time he saw, the sugarcane machines they have? Wow, they're so loud, these sugarcane machines. So he saw one of these sugarcane machines, where you put the sugarcane in and then the juice comes out. And he made a beautiful prayer. He said, may the hard, crushing wheel of life extract some humility from my offense-hardened heart. And may the nectar of that humility give rise to pure love for Krishna. Such a beautiful prayer. May the hard, crushing wheel of life extract some humility from my heart, which has become so hard by offenses. And may the nectar of that dainya, that humility, give rise to pure love for Krishna. So some people bow down because they're forced. And some people become humble because they're forced. But there's another type of obeisances, and that is what I call induced obeisances. Once, there was one great king, Maharaj of Burdwan. He had heard about Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Some great sadhu has come, you should go to meet him. So he said, okay. He said to his friend, I'll go and meet Bhaktisiddhanta, no problem. I'm happy to meet a sadhu. But as he was walking, his friend was telling him, you please, be humble. You're meeting a sadhu, you should be a little... He said, look, he's an important man, but I'm also an important man. He's a Maharaj, I am also a Maharaj. So he said, no, I will not disrespect him. I will not disrespect, but I will not bow to him. I will not bow down to him. This Maharaj of Burdwan said, this is said in Bhakti Vikas Maharaj's book. So he was going in and he said, and his friend was thinking, oh no, And you know what happened? He knocked on the door. He opened. As he walked in, he had all his plans. I'm going to ask my questions. I'm going to, check, size up the sadhu. And as soon as he came in and he saw Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, without even thinking, he said, I don't know what came over me, my head just went down. And he realized that when you come in the midst of someone who has so much purity, when you come in the midst of someone who has so much presence, you're forced to bow down. You're induced to, not forced, you're induced in your heart, I must bow down. This is a superior person. I should bow down. Isn't it Bhaktivinoda Thakur sings, Gurudev Kripa Bindu Diya Koroe Dase Trenapeka Atehina. That give me your mercy and make me humble. The sadhus, the saints, by their purity, they can make us humble. Because in their presence, we get the factual realization, I'm nothing. I'm so small. I'm so insignificant. His Holiness Badrinarayan Maharaj talks about this other story. I think it was the Grand Dog Auditorium or something like this. The devotees had rented out a hall for a public program. And all types of people had come, including the Hells Angels. So if you don't know the Hells Angels, they're on the motorcycles, very heavy characters. They wear leather jackets and chains. And so all these people were in the hall, and the devotees were doing the kirtan, waiting for Prabhupada to arrive. And Badrinarayan Maharaj, he says, as soon as Prabhupada walked into the room, all the devotees went down, and somehow spontaneously everyone else went down, including all of these Hells Angels. And all you could hear was the crashing of all these chains going to the ground. Like all these like someone has all these chains and then everyone's crashing to the ground. He thought, wow, Prabhupada's purity had the power to even just move these Hells Angels to just bowing down. So the sadhus, they have that power to cut the pride. Bhagavatam says, Tatodu sangamutsrija sadhu satseta buddhiman shanta evasya chindanti manovya sangamuktibi. That a sadhu's words are razor sharp. A sadhu's words are like a razor blade. And they're so sharp, manovya sangam uktibi, that they can sever all of the attachments that are within the heart. So this is the power of a saintly person. That even we may not be humble, but just by coming in their presence, we feel humbled. And therefore the saints are our opportunity to develop some humility. And then there are obeisances which are offered out of culture. Brahmananda Prabhu, Gargamuni Prabhu, they tell this story. Gargamuni Prabhu tells of how in the beginning days, he was very honest, and he went to Srila Prabhupada and he said, Swamiji, I like you, everything, I love you, but I don't feel like bowing down to you. And I feel that if I bow down to you, it will be artificial. So is it okay that I don't bow down to you? Because I don't want to be artificial. And what did Prabhupada say to him? Prabhupada said, you should bow down. Even you don't feel humble, you should bow down. And the feeling will come. Bowing down is not just an expression of humility, but it's a way in which we develop humility. So Prabhupada told him, yes, bow down, and the feeling of humility will come. So we can always bow down, even when we don't feel like it. Like Srila Prabhupada. And what does bowing down mean? We can always take the humble position. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur in Amritavani, he defines humility, and he says, humility means a complete absence of the enjoying spirit. And if you turn that statement, what it means is that humility, if it's the absence of enjoying spirit, humility means the presence of the service spirit at every moment. And therefore, one can always take the humble position by taking the position of being a servant, and in this way developing humility. So when we're hearing that Krishna is bowing down before Govardhan Hill, then when we meditate on Krishna bowing down, then Krishna is giving us a very deep lesson that everyone in this world has to bow down Everyone in this world has to become humble. And either you can become humble by cultivating humility, either you can become humble by being induced in that humility by the presence of a great soul in your life. Otherwise, if you don't do those two, then ultimately you will have to become humble by being broken down by the harsh waves of material nature. But one way or another, we must become humble, because without dainya, there is no prema. Rupa Goswami becomes the emblem of someone who has such deep humility, such that Mahaprabhu says to him, Aji hoite donhar naam rupa sanatan, dainya chadi dainya tomar, dainya chadi dainya tomar, fate mora man. Mahaprabhu initiates Rupa and Sanatan and he says, Aji hoite, from this day on, donhar naam, your names will be Rupa and Sanatan. And then what does Mahaprabhu say? Dainya chadi, dainya tomar fate mora man. Give up your humility, because your humility is breaking my heart. It's amazing. Mahaprabhu is the one who comes to this world and says, Tranadapi suni chena. Be more humble than a blade of grass. And when he's confronted with the unfathomable humility of Rupa Goswami, then Mahaprabhu says, give it up. It's too much. That was the level of Rupa Goswami's humility. If you look at Rupa Goswami's interactions with Mahaprabhu, then basically they had three main meetings. The first meeting was Rupa's meeting with Mahaprabhu at Ramakeli. The second main meeting that they had, Rupa Goswami with Mahaprabhu, was at Prayag, Allahabad, Dashashvamedha Ghat. And the third major meeting that Mahaprabhu and Rupa Goswami had was at Jagannath Puri for 10 months. And it's very interesting in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, when you study these three meetings, then you can see every meeting has a certain flavor. In the first meeting at Ramakeli, what's really coming out through Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami's narration is the deep humility of Rupa Goswami. Rupa Goswami comes to Mahaprabhu, Nicha jati nicha sangi patita adham. Kuvishaya kupepadi gonai no janam. Rupa says, I was from a low family, low association. I've done no good things in my life. Practically, I have no qualification. And in this way, Rupa, with straw in his teeth, is bowing down to Mahaprabhu as they meet in Ramakeli. And in this meeting, you see that Rupa Goswami's humility is coming out in such a powerful way. And then Rupa Goswami meets Mahaprabhu at Dashashvamedha Ghat. And Mahaprabhu is educating him. And so in this meeting, the main flavor of the meeting is education. Mahaprabhu is instilling so much wisdom within Rupa Goswami. Bhakti tattva, Krishna tattva, prema tattva ar, bhava tattva, rasa tattva, lila tattva sar. Mahaprabhu is teaching him everything. Krishna tattva, the truth of Krishna. Bhakti tattva, the truth of devotion. Prema tattva, the truth of love. Bhava tattva, the truth of emotion. Lila tattva, the truth of Krishna's pastimes. Rasa tattva, the truth of transcendental mellows. Everything Mahaprabhu is just giving to Rupa Goswami. So in this meeting, you can see education of Rupa Goswami is becoming the main thing. And then in the final meeting, where Rupa Goswami stays with Mahaprabhu for 10 months in Puri, the main thing that's coming out is Rupa Goswami's incredible empowerment. And Mahaprabhu is just showing off Rupa Goswami to all the Vaishnavas and telling them, look at him, look how amazing he is, look how empowered he is. Vrindavaniyam rasakeli vartam kalena lupta nija shakti ukta. That the pastimes of Vrindavan were lost. But what did Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu do? Like Brahma imparted the knowledge into the heart, like Krishna imparted the knowledge into the heart of Brahma at the beginning of creation. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu imparted all of the knowledge of Vrindavan into Rupa Goswami, Sancharya Rupe, and then just empowered him. And therefore in this last meeting, what's coming out is the empowerment of Rupa Goswami. So if you look at this journey of Rupa Goswami, it all begins with humility. Because he was humble, because he made his heart a fertile ground for Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, then Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, what did he do with that humility? Education. He just gave him all the wisdom, all the knowledge, all the insight. And then finally, what happened by all of those blessings? Empowerment. Empowerment came. So it all begins with humility. And so as Krishna is bowing down before Govardhan Hill, showing the example of bowing down, then we remember that somehow or other we also have to bow down. And not just bow down, but bowing down means to become humble. When Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur was preaching, then one of the main things he was battling was the Babajis and the system of Siddha Pranali, which had been misused, cheapened, which had been perverted by people who are not qualified. And therefore, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur told his followers, focus on Nam Sankirtan. And once someone came to Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur and said, but what is your Siddha Pranali mantra? What is the Siddha Pranali mantra of Gaudiya Vaishnavas for you? And at that time, Bhaktisiddhanta revealed, yes, Tranadapi sunichena, tarodapi sahishnuna, amanina manadena, kirtaniya sadahari. That is our Siddha Pranali mantra, to chant, but to chant with great humility. And therefore Kaviraj then goes on to say, Urdhva bahu kari kaha shuna sarvalok, nama sutra gandhi para kantha e shlok. Take this verse, thread it on the string of the holy name, and wear it always around your neck, to chant the holy name in a humble state of mind. So one devotee used to say to me, I liked it. He said, if you're not perfect, then you should be humble. And then he said, but the moment you're humble, you're perfect. So if you're not perfect, then be humble. But the moment you're humble, you're perfect. Because you're fully under the protection of Krishna, under the protection of the Vaishnavas, under the protection of Srila Prabhupada. And therefore, our humility is our purity, which is our immunity, in order to perfect this process of Krishna consciousness. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Thank you for tolerating my offering to you here. I can take some corrections, chastisements, or anything anyone would like to.
Maharaj, thank you very much for being very nice to us. sometimes it comes in the mind that even after bowing down so many times to the senior devotees or Vaishnavas, still I have seen people are very much, egoistic, very much egoistic. After so many years I've been seeing.
Sounds like me.
So, what is to be done? Like in that thing comes to me in my this thing. What I will do, what I should do on that particular time, when the ego coming in my mind and the heart and all these things, what to do?
Yes. Pride is one of the last anarthas. It's such a powerful anartha. Pratistha, the desire for distinction, the desire for respect and fame. So we can understand it will not go immediately. So if we find that egoistic tendency remains within us, then therefore I mentioned these three things. The first thing we do is we try to put ourselves in the humble position. But then you're saying, we've done that for so many years, bowing down, but it's not working. Then we must pray that Vaishnavas will appear in our life who will humble us. Prabhupada said, I was only defeated once in my life. Well, I don't know if he said that, but he said, I was defeated by my spiritual master, and I was very happily defeated. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, of course, it's Leela, but he was happily defeated by Ishvarapuri. Murkha tumi tomar nahik vedanta adhikar. Krishna mantra japa sada ei mantra sar. You're a fool. You have no qualification to study Vedanta. Krishna mantra japa sada ei mantra sar. Just take Krishna's names. So even we're learning from all of these situations that for most of us, maybe it will take a Vaishnav to appear in our life, to humble us in that way. Of course, when we go in front of Srila Prabhupada every single day, we feel that Prabhupada has that presence, of course. I asked one disciple of Srila Prabhupada, Keshav Prabhu, at the manor, I asked him once, what do you feel like when you come in front of Srila Prabhupada? And he said, every time I come in front of Srila Prabhupada, I feel challenged. I thought that was such a beautiful statement. He said, I feel challenged. So when we come in front of Srila Prabhupada's incredible humility. Srila Prabhupada writes in the 4th canto of the Bhagavatam, Dhruva Maharaj is going back to Godhead, and then just before he steps onto the aeroplane, he says, no, where's my mother? Is my mother also going back? I don't want to go back. I must also take her. And in the purport, Prabhupada writes, I'm preaching, I'm traveling, just in the hope that maybe I will make one disciple who becomes so pure that they will take me back to Godhead. So when we come in front of Prabhupada, then we feel like we're humbled by the humility of the great saints. And then, if we don't get humbled by the purity of the saints, then if you really want to break down your ego, you have to be careful, but then you have to pray to Krishna. Just make the arrangement, so I'll be humbled. Make the arrangement, so that everything that my pride rests upon, my pride is resting upon my position, my pride is resting upon my abilities, my pride is resting upon my influence. Krishna, take it all away. I don't know if you're ready. That prayer goes with caution. But then yes, maybe it will take the hard crushing wheel of life. If we don't learn, then Krishna will make an arrangement. So.
Yeah, very nice. I want a little bit help from you. That is, sometimes I read in the Chaitanya, Kadanchana Smrite Jasmin, Duskaram Sudaram. That sloka, sometimes I think of, that if I come to this type of problem, that sloka, what I understand that thinking of, because it's a mind game, controlling your senses, controlling your angerness and all these things, is a mind game. So I think, it's my conception that if I take that particular turn when I'm not controlled, can I take the name of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead? Do you think that I will be able to get rid of those type of things? Like, it's my request. Please help me so that I can come down.
In one word, yes. Yes, that is our hope. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is our hope. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mercy is so great. Mahaprabhu is not considering. Patra patra vichar nahi nahi sthana sthan. Je jane paye tane kare prema dhan. So Mahaprabhu is overlooking so many disqualifications in that mood of magnanimity. But still, because Mahaprabhu is telling us, Trinadapi sunichena, then we also have to try to make an effort because he wants it. And if he sees that we make some small, we may not be humble, we may be proud like anything, but we can take the humble position. It's not easy, but we can take the humble position. And then maybe Mahaprabhu's grace in our life will act in a much more powerful way. That's what I can offer.
Hare Krishna.
Krishna Maharaj.
Well, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says that we should not go on the top of the Govardhan Hill, and the Brajavasis can do. So is it because we know that Govardhan Hill is none different than Krishna, and the Brajavasis, they don't know, they can go? Why is it that they can go and they don't get any offenses?
I don't have a definite a Shastric quotation for this, or my understanding from reading Chaitanya Charitamrita on this is that Mahaprabhu generally is warning the devotees that the bhav that the residents of Braj have is a very confidential bhav, a very spontaneous type of relationship. And that type of relationship should not be imitated by those who are sadhakas. And so, just like Mahaprabhu is advising, don't associate too closely with the Brajabasis because you will misunderstand their mood of spontaneity and closeness to Krishna. So in that way, because Mahaprabhu had come in the mood of a devotee, Ei mata bhakta bhav kori angikar, apani achari bhakti korila prachar. Because he had come in the bhakta bhav, and to show by example how to develop that purity, Mahaprabhu was stressing that for the sadhaka, don't try to do what the spontaneous practice of what the Brajabasis may do. And therefore they may have some connection or some intimacy whereby they do that. But for us, we will respect from a distance because we're worshipping Giriraj as Krishna. This is what I can offer. Maybe someone has another answer, I don't know.
Krishna. Maharaj, as per my observation, what I have seen is, I've seen many devotees, naturally they are very humble. Might be past, whatever is it may be. Naturally they are very, very humble. And there are some category of devotees, I mean, even if, I'm afraid I'm in that category, that even if we try to be humble, I mean, it doesn't come out naturally. It's a bit artificial. So, when I observe such devotees who are naturally humble, it appears to me that I am in a very disadvantageous position in comparison to them, and I feel like it would take a lot of time to reach that position. And then there is this element of fear in me that these are very humble devotees naturally, and I am not that. And
Yes, thank you. Yes, some devotees are very like that, very meek, humble. Naturally, they have that kind of disposition, it seems, whereas others are little sharp, little like chilly. But what is humility? It's not just an external thing. Srila Prabhupada writes that humility is to not be anxious, to have the opportunity of being honored by others. That's a very internal thing. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur is writing, humility means the absence of the enjoying spirit. That's an internal thing. So it doesn't mean, I'm loud, I'm charismatic, I'm this type, therefore I'll never be humble. Srila Prabhupada told Tamal Krishna Maharaj, humility means act boldly for Krishna. That was like a good definition for Tamal Krishna Maharaj. Because maybe he would not have been that person externally. No, but you can be yourself, but do it for Krishna. So let us try to see humility in a deeper way than just the external. Humility, if you want to know whether you're humble, ask yourself, am I anxious to be honored by others? If you want to know if you're humble, ask yourself, do I have an absence of the enjoying spirit? These are the indicators. And then the other things externally, everyone will be humble in their own way. Gaura Leela is full of different personalities. Nityananda gives Shivananda Sain a good fly kick in the chest. What to say? These are all personalities. But humility is something very deep within us. So let us try to gender that deeper humility. I think the bell has gone, so we should finish there. Sorry, time has gone. Grantharaj Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna.